Welcome back. You're watching Live from Paris on France 24. It's time to find out what's been making the headlines here in France today. Olivia Salazar-Winspear is here for tonight's Media Watch. Good evening to you, Olivia.
Hi.
One big story, of course, the new French president's inauguration ceremony. Some say it was a little short on pomp and circumstance, but nevertheless, it did go ahead, didn't it?
It was pretty pared down. I think it was dampened slightly, by the weather.
It didn't help, did it?
Obviously, it's been the front page of every paper in France. It's been the main story on the internet as well. They spent their time, actually, like you say, talking about how it was a pared-down ceremony and how many things were quite symbolic in terms of their difference with Sarkozy's inauguration. Hollande, interestingly, didn't wait for Sarkozy to leave the Élysée Palace before he went in. He went straight in and didn't accompany Sarkozy to his car, which the papers like to point out that Sarkozy did with Chirac and Chirac did with Mitterrand. So I think they're trying to stir up the rivalry between these two. There was also a big difference in terms of the family presence at the ceremony.
Right, no kids. He's got a lot of kids.
He's got
Hollande. We didn't see any of
kids,
them, did we?
loads of kids. He had invited Ségolène Royal.
And 3 stepchildren now
Their
as well.
mother, exactly. She had confirmed that they had been invited, but they opted to stay out of the limelight for this ceremony, as did she, his former partner, and of course, large figure in the Socialist Party. They decided to give the day fully to François Hollande. Of course, the papers like to say that that wasn't just an affectionate gesture, but another move to differentiate today from the same ceremony that we saw 5 years ago with Nicolas Sarkozy, when he had his whole extended family, Cecilia Sarkozy's children from a former marriage, his children, etc., all on the red carpet posing for photos.
And of course, they were in the middle of a pretty messy divorce at the time, so that all
Absolutely.
blew up not long afterwards, didn't it? Now, what struck me was the lack of umbrella or raincoat or anything to protect the new president from the rain.
We all know that the big story today, let's face it, wasn't the president, it was the rain.
It was dreadful. I mean, there were hailstones. It's May. What's going
the
on?
heavens opened as he took the reins of the country, and he was travelling in an open-top car, in fact, which he insisted on stopping and waving to the passers-by. So he got totally soaked. He arrived at his inauguration, as we can see there, in a wetsuit, not a wetsuit, a suit that was wet from the rain, and of course that made him the butt
They
of
have it with his upholstery in that car,
many
isn't it?
jokes on Twitter. Of course, I think we can see some of them now. We've got translated, actually. People were saying that, making a reference to his campaign slogan, "Now is the time for change, le changement c'est maintenant." One person said, "Now is the time to change your suit."
Yeah, very good.
And another one was saying that...
Which he did, didn't he, when he went to see
Well,
the
he
mayor,
must
Bertrand
have done.
Delanoë.
He must have done, or else he would
Changement
have...
de costume, there you go.
The time to change suits is now. The next one was a little bit of a joke about the power void we had for about 3 seconds between governments. You'll notice the nice weather was during the period when we had no government.
Yes.
And this is a dig at Hollande and Merkel. He's been sworn in as French president. He now travels to Germany to be sworn at by Angela Merkel, where he is right now.
And of course, he had a bit of trouble getting there, didn't he? Because his aeroplane was hit by lightning. So the weather really not being kind to François Hollande.
He had to get off an aeroplane that was going to Berlin because it was struck by lightning.
That is very unfortunate.
It's something like something out of a story.
Some people might say it's bad omens, but I'm not
another
saying that.
little media angle of the inauguration was that all eyes were, in fact, on his +1.
The Première Dame.
Valérie Trierweiler. Well, is she? Because this article here says, "Don't call me First Lady." Now, Valérie Trierweiler, who, of course, is François Hollande's partner, domestic partner, we might say, has decided that she's not impressed with this title of First Lady. She doesn't want to use it. She justifies that by saying that in France, there is no real constitutional role for a First Lady. It's not like in the United States, where the president's wife does have a specific role. She says she doesn't want to be called that, and also she's not married to Hollande either. So she's trying to find a new way to style herself.
So will she be going to state dinners and that kind of thing?
She will, but she's rejecting the title for the moment.
She'll be doing it in all but name.
Absolutely.
That's how she wants
and she
it.
was under close scrutiny today, especially for what she chose to wear. Here, Rue 89 has given us a run-through of her wardrobe. They've named where everything comes from, of course.
Because she's got a big pair of stilettos to step into, hasn't she? I'm talking about Carla Bruni.
Indeed. We've got a fashion icon to follow.
At all times.
But, of course, the comparison here was with the 2007 inauguration ceremony, where Cecilia Sarkozy wore a Prada dress. Now, they're saying that Valérie Trierweiler has been a lot more politically correct, choosing French labels, Tara Jarman and Apostrophe, and much cheaper, more of the professional woman's working wardrobe.
More high street.
A little bit more high street, yeah. They're saying that she's a little bit more modest. Not
She doesn't want to be called
bling.
First Lady, and she does not like designer labels. Changing the tone at the Elysee. Now, of course, one door opens, another one closes. Sarkozy, of course, was packing his bags, and he was out of there today. What's next for him?
Now, he has officially left the building. He's keeping quite quiet on what's next for him in terms of what his job will be. He's mentioned going back to legal practice, which is what he did previously. But what we have got news of today is where he will be working. The papers have got access now to a new property that he's rented, and it's really not too far from his old digs, the presidential palace, in the 8th arrondissement of Paris.
He wants to stay in the area, doesn't he?
He's rented some offices that are 300 metres squared with 10 individual offices inside and private parking. And Europe 1 estimates that the rent of a property like this would be some 15,000 euros a month, which is pretty steep for your work rent. Here we can see inside, it looks pretty massive. But luckily for Sarkozy, La République will be picking up the tab. They'll be paying his rent there because it's an official working address, and that's what the French state does for former presidents. So that's nice.
So you can hire any kind of office, and the state will pay for it.
It's very convenient as well. It's in a good part of town. Now, it might not be the end of the Sarkozy era, as we were thinking today. This is the end of him. As we know, his son is in politics, local politics. Jean Sarkozy is a councillor for Neuilly-sur-Seine, which is the upmarket western Parisian district where Sarkozy was
Very
actually...
swanky suburb,
Very
isn't it?
swanky, where he was mayor some 20 years ago. Now, Jean Sarkozy was actually thinking of being a candidate for the legislative elections, the parliamentary elections in June. And in fact, his father has forbidden him.
Oh.
Yes, he went to ask Daddy, he went for lunch, asked him, well, not asked him, for he told him that he was going to present himself.
Well, he's
and
25,
Sarkozy
isn't he?
Senior apparently said that the Sarkozys should be keeping a low profile from now.
Ah, do as I say, not as I do. I see. All right, Olivia Salazar-Winspear, we'll have to leave it there. Many thanks indeed. Well, it's time now to find out what else is going on the web. One sensation is a zombie-fueled marathon in Manila. Find out more, it's Web News.